Everybody's got a price, it's the $1 million man. Podcast in demand. Understand, everybody's got a price. $1 million man. Everybody's got a price. $1 million man. Everybody's got a pod, it's the $1 million man. Podcast in demand. Understand, everybody's got a price. $1 million man. Everybody's got a price.
What's up, everybody? It's Marcus D'Angelo, and we are back for another episode of Everybody's Got a Pod. And of course, I am joined by the WWE Hall of Famer, the master of the $1 million dream, the $1 million man himself, Ted DiBiase. What's going on, Ted?
Buddy, it's all you. It's like, how do I feel today? Like $1 million.
You know, if nothing else, you and I are always consistent on our introductions, and I love it.
Yeah.
And man, I love this show and everything that you and I have been able to do here. And brother, we've got a really fun episode today, highlighting a really significant milestone for your career. Before we talk about that, I did want to talk about the fact that, Ted, you and I are part of a new network. That network is called One True Sport. And brother, we are going to have a lot of great opportunities for folks. If you guys didn't see the teasers online, please go to all of our social media. Well, first of all, you can find the merchandise that we've got available with some really huge Hall of Fame names such as Ted, Jake, Kurt Angle, Arn Anderson, Greg Gagne, so many more. You can go to onetruesport.com and have a look at some of the t-shirt offerings we have so far. There's a lot more to come. We didn't want to show them all right away. I also want you to go to onetruesporttv.com. That's the YouTube page where you're going to find a lot of really amazing free content on the YouTube page. But here's the critical element is that when you become a member on YouTube, there's 3 different tiers, and there is a lot to choose from for every price range. We'll talk about that closer to the end of the show.
And why is that? Because everybody's got a price.
Everybody's got a price. And brother, if your price for our top tier, let me give you a little spoiler. Top tier is just $40 a month. And the amount that you get for $40 a month is going to absolutely blow your minds. We'll talk about it at the end of the show. But Ted, I couldn't be more thrilled to be getting into this this new network with you and provide these opportunities for our loyal listeners, right?
That's great. Yeah, I love it.
Man, I can't wait. And that's going to include some Q&A elements, some bonus episodes, et cetera, et cetera. I don't want to give it all away right now. Hang until the end of the show.
And that would all be absolutely priceless.
Priceless is a good word for it. And you know what? We might as well do this right now. Priceless is going to fit right in because I had mentioned that you guys should go and look at our merchandise. Let's have a look at the first t-shirt for the $1 million man, Ted DiBiase, on onetruesport.com. There it is. That is highlighting, of course, his time as a $1 million man. It's established 1974 DiBiase on the front. On the back, it says priceless. These are high-quality materials done in kind of like a Roots of Fight kind of style. So if you guys are just listening to us on the audio, do yourself a favor. Either come check us out on YouTube so you can see this shirt, or make life even easier. Go to onetruesport.com and check out Ted under the collections tab that you'll see there at the top of the page. You'll see this shirt. And man, what a great way to support our show and look pretty fashionable while you're at it. Right, Ted?
That's right.
But yeah, Ted, you mentioned it, 1974. Let's do a little quick mental math. That is 50 years ago. And as a matter of fact, Ted,
wow.
A few weeks back, I spoke to Jake about what led to his decision to become a wrestler back in also 1974, being that it's the 50-year anniversary for him too. Well, wouldn't you know it, on the day that this episode drops, it'll mark the 50-year anniversary of the first recorded match from your career. That is 50 years ago this week. And yeah. I emphasize the word recorded there because it's in all likelihood you had another match before this. This probably wasn't the first time you ever set foot in a wrestling ring. So, but this is the first one that is on record, and we'll get into it as we dig into these notes. But first of all, Ted, I wanted to start here. You had mentioned before that your father didn't want you to get into wrestling. Is that correct?
Yes.
So why is that?
Well, I mean, my dad, and my mom, neither one of them wanted me to be a wrestler. And it wasn't because of the wrestling itself. It was because of the very uncertain, everything. It's kind of like back then it was, yeah, you wrestled in territories, and pro wrestlers were constantly moving around. I would almost, it's kind of like a circus, right? The circus comes to town for a week or two, and then it goes someplace else. But it was like, and then as for territorial wrestling, say for example, they bring me in, as a brand new babyface, good guy. Well, it takes a little time for that guy to present himself and get over, with all of the fans in all of the towns in the territory, and the same thing with a heel. It takes time, and then the thing is, so you do a program with somebody, and that program, first match the heel beats you. Second match he finds another way. Even though you beat him up physically, he cops another win. And then eventually you get to that blow off match. And the blow off match, back then sometimes it was a lumberjack match with all the guys around the ring. So you can't run. If you get thrown out of the ring, you get thrown right back in. A cage match. One of the things where they would tie a what do you call it? A chain match where you've got to link the chain. You're tied to one end of it, and your opponent's tied to the other end of it, so you can't get away. So those were the blow off matches back then, and and that's what the people had to look forward to. But once you've done that blow off match, now if you're the good guy, it's a lot easier to stay in a territory because everybody loves you. But if you're the heel and you build up to this blow off and you get beat, then you've got to move on for a while. Now you can always come back, but you have to go somewhere else for a specific, some time period before you can come back there and start again. And that was back in the days of territorial wrestling. And I think that's the biggest thing that my mom and dad had was, it was kind of like, you always want something, better for your children. And, or, not as, and that was, it's a hard lived life when you have to move around like that constantly. Okay, first grade, Amarillo, second grade, Houston, Texas, third and fourth grade, Omaha. Sixth grade, Amarillo, back to Omaha, seventh, eighth, and ninth grade. And then the summer between ninth and 10th grade, sophomore and junior year, my dad dies. We go back to Wilcox. I finished high school there. I had signed a scholarship to play football at the University of Arizona. And then I hadn't seen any wrestling, none, for 3 years. And I turned the TV on one day, and it's the Funks, and I could tell that it was the show out of Amarillo, and they were coming to Tucson, and what they were trying to do, they were just testing the waters. They were going to see if they could do this, and expand the territory. Because one of their towns was El Paso. El Paso was like a couple 100 miles from us. Anyway, so I go to Tucson. To see the Funks, who I hadn't seen forever. And Terry, I told him that I had signed a scholarship to play ball in Arizona and what have you. And he says, you know what, Danny? He says, I can get you a recruiting trip to West Texas State. And he says, if you've already decided this is what you want, go for it. He says, but you could take this trip to West Texas State. It's free, and it gives you a couple of days to come back and visit everybody. And so I said, man, that's great. And so he arranges the trip, and that's all it took. It was me just getting back in that environment, and it was like everybody was they were actually baffled. I know a lot of people in Wilcox weren't very happy because I think some of those people contributed to me getting this scholarship, and I didn't know that at the time. And and they were all big fans of Arizona. And so I come back and go, guess what? I'm not going to Arizona. I'm going to West Texas State. And so, and that really, I tell everybody, I said, I really didn't go to West Texas State to play football. I went to West Texas State because it was my doorway into professional wrestling. And I remember Terry's wife, her name was Vicky. And then, and so I go to West Texas State, freshman, sophomore, junior. The summer between sophomore and junior, I refereed all summer. The summer, the next summer, the summer between the summer of '75, I wasn't there. I had gone with Dick Murdoch to what was then called Mid-South territory, big territory, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Cowboy Bill Watts. And I was just gonna break in that summer, get my feet wet, see if I really wanted to do it. Well, things went so well. I said, see ya. I had 1 year of college left. And I mean, and I'll tell you what, even Terry said, Teddy, you only got 1 year left. and I said, no, I'm doing it. This is what I'm going to do. It's all I've ever wanted to do. And even with its hardships, it's the love I life and the love and the route I want to take. So the Ted DiBiase, who's talking to all the fans right now, would say to Ted DiBiase back then, you dumbass. You only have 1 year left. What was 1 year? What would 1 year make a difference? And you don't really know, but that's what happened. That's the way it went.
And man, Terry Funk helping to facilitate that move, and then of course being involved with you throughout your career is just incredible. And while we're on the subject of Terry Funk, I do want to take a quick break from the show to mention that on OneTrueSportTV.com, one of the pieces that we have dropped there is actually the final long form interview with Terry Funk, the last long form interview Terry ever did, and possibly the last interview he ever did, period. It was conducted by my brother Dominic, as a matter of fact, who had reached out to Terry as a wrestling journalist, and it spoke to Terry for an hour and a half or so.
Wow.
And what's really great about this video, for those of you who are interested in hearing the final interview of Terry Funk, is that Dominic, for about 10, maybe 15 minutes at the top of the show, explains how he got the in with Terry Funk and how the two of them became very good friends, to the point where Terry would call Dominic out of the blue and they'd have 20, 30-minute conversations. So you've got to go out of your way to listen to the final interview of Terry Funk. You can find that at OneTrueSportTV.com. So just wanted to go ahead and plug that while we're on the subject of the legendary Terry Funk. And Ted, I'm going to have to send you the link to this interview with my brother. It's good to hear Terry's voice, but really it's hearing Dominic talk about what his relationship with Terry meant to him and how Terry would just call him, and some of the funny things that Terry would say to him. Just like what an interesting relationship that the two of them formed. And honestly, listening to my brother talk about it got me emotional, and I've never spoken to Terry Funk. Yeah. So it was, man, it's something else. I'll send you the link to it so you can check it out.
Sure.
You had mentioned before that your father had didn't want you to be involved in wrestling. Now here you are, you're making the choice to step away from school and become a professional wrestler. How did your mother feel about this move?
Well, my mother, was, apparently, she really wasn't happy about it, but the other thing is that my mother had changed so much. I mean, my mother became an alcoholic, and this goes even back, because I can remember when we were still in Omaha, before we went to, back to Texas. I remember my dad came home one evening, and he just asked me, he pulled me off to the side. He says, have you seen your mom drinking anything here lately, the alcohol? So I think he was worried about her. Mm. And I said, no, I haven't, but then, I started watching, a little closer. And, I found a bottle down in the basement, stuck up under something. And it was in a bottle that was supposed to be something, and it wasn't. It was vodka. And so I let my dad know that. But that was, again, we went back to Texas that summer, and that's when he died. And when he died, she went over the edge. Oh my gosh. I couldn't believe it.
Well, so you weren't exactly taking notes from your mother at the time then. She was struggling with alcoholism. So it's, you had made your choice, and that was that. You're getting into wrestling.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, let's take a minute to discuss our fantastic sponsor that is changing the lives of men everywhere. Of course, we are talking about Blue Chew. Are you ready to perform with the confidence of the $1 million man in the bedroom? Are you ready to leave your partner feeling like $1 million? Are you ready to get that thing so hard you could go hunting with it? If the answer to all those questions is yes, it's time for you to give Blue Chew a try. Blue Chew can help increase your performance and regain that old confidence where it counts the very most. Blue Chew is a unique online service that delivers the same active ingredients as Viagra, Cialis, and Levitra, but in chewable tablets and at a fraction of the cost. You can take them anytime, day or night, so that you can plan ahead or be ready when that opportunity springs up. The process is simple. Sign up at BlueChew.com, consult with one of their licensed medical providers, and once you're approved, you'll receive your prescription within days. The best part of it, it's all done online. You can forget about those visits to the doctor's office, no more weird, awkward, uncomfortable conversations, and no waiting in line at the pharmacy anymore. It comes right to you. Blue Chew's tablets are made right here in the USA and prepared and shipped direct to your door in a discreet package. But you know the drill, guys. There's not going to be anything discreet about your package. Men everywhere have never been more excited to see their mail carrier arrive, because when your package arrives, your package arrives. Listen, I know what your next question is. Will it actually work? Why don't you try it for free and find out for yourself? Something free from the $1 million man? That's right. You can try it right now for free. All you have to do is pay $5 shipping. That's it. Place your order now and give your partner a very pleasant surprise. Women are attracted to confidence, and Blue Chew can help give you confidence where it counts. Don't wait any longer. Time to chew it and do it. Take advantage of our special deal. Again, you can try Blue Chew free when you use our promo code EGAP at checkout. Just pay $5 shipping. That's BlueChew.com, promo code EGAP, and receive your first month free. Visit BlueChew.com for more details and important safety information, and we thank Blue Chew for sponsoring Everybody's Got a Pod. You as a fan growing up, obviously your father, Mike DiBiase, is going to be your favorite wrestler. But aside from your father, who stood out to you as a guy that you admired?
Oh, gosh. The Funks for Terry Funk. Terry Funk could do it all, too. I mean, he could be the baddest badass or the greatest baby face, and I just thought that was great. And again, another guy, Dick Murdoch. Dick Murdoch was a guy that they were basically considering to possibly be, the next NWA world champion. But you never knew which Murdoch was going to show up, whether the sensible Murdoch was going to show up, or whether the wild orangutan was going to show up.
And you were watching Dick and Terry as a kid?
Oh yeah.
That's interesting to hear that, as a kid, you're watching not only Mike DiBiase, who you would consider the generation prior to Terry Funk and Dick Murdoch, but then you're also seeing Terry Funk and Dick Murdoch probably during some of the formative times in their career.
Oh, yeah. I mean, those guys were the best of their era. And Amarillo was just, it's kind of like, I tell everybody, I said, West Texas State University, 11 miles south of Amarillo, Texas, in Canyon, Texas, probably graduated more professional wrestlers than pro football players. I mean, Dick Murdoch claims it, but Dick didn't actually go to college, but he's from Amarillo. Dick Murdoch, Dory Funk Jr., Stan Hansen, Bruiser Brody, Manny Fernandez,
Tito
Santana, myself, and what was the guy? His dad, Blackjack Mulligan, his son,
Oh, Barry.
Barry Windham.
Wow.
Yeah, Barry
Man.
Windham. Barry Windham was the West Texas State too.
That's a hell of a crew coming out of West Texas State.
Yeah, no kidding. Hey, and you're talking about these guys they didn't all just become wrestlers. They all became stars.
Yep. And many of them Hall of Famers. So pretty incredible group of guys coming out of there.
Yeah.
And man, we are going to be talking about the wrestling end of it. We might have to break this into 2 episodes, so we'll see.
Okay.
But who would you say taught you the most when it came to handle the job of being a referee early on?
You know, it's like, well, I mean, that was something else that was funny. You know, again, I got a phone call from Terry, and you know, I'm in college at West Texas State. He calls me. I was at the time, I was married to my first wife, and he said, "Teddy, what are you doing?" I said, "Well, nothing." He says, "Do you have anything you have to do?" He says, "No." He says, "Well, I'm going to pick you up 10 minutes." And I said, "Why?" He says, "Because I need a referee in Lubbock." And so, for whatever happened, his referee, you know, he was so. He says, "What size shirt you wearing?" Tell me. So he says, "Yeah, don't wear blue jeans." Okay.
Well,
so
hold on. This is you have never reffed a match before, and Terry Funk is calling you out of the blue, saying he wants you to.
Yep.
Okay, continue the story.
Yeah, and so he picks me up, and I'm nervous as heck, and so we're going to Lubbock. We go to Lubbock, and he said, "Teddy, it's easy." He says, "When the shoulders are on the mat, count." He says, "When they're in the ropes, you got a 10 count on the ropes, and that time, if they're on the floor, they have a 20 count. You know what?" And he says, "If they don't get in time, count them out." You know, and so but by being in the ring with the wrestlers as they're doing it and listening to, they had their own language. We had our own language. And this is a little, Marcus, I was like, I was nervous about, okay, I'm going to do this for the first time, and then when I got in that building and I stepped in the ring, it hit me. I'm stepping into in the same building, in the same ring where my father's life ended.
Wow. And
I remember saying to myself, I said, "Okay, Dad, I'm going to tag in now." Wow.
Incredible.
Yeah, it was. I didn't even think about it until I got there. It was like, it just, but now, I mean, I look back at it as like, yes, thank you,
man. So cool. Such an interesting full circle way for you to begin your Hall of Fame career journey. Is in the same ring where your father's journey came to an end. So man, there's some really beautiful poetry in that.
Yeah.
Were you also expected to handle ring crew duties, or how are you paying for your education of sorts in wrestling? Because everybody's got to pay their dues, right?
Oh, well, I mean, what do you mean? You mean school?
So you're being brought in as a referee now, and it's kind of out of the blue, but now you're a referee, and that being said, it's you're helping Terry Funk, but at the same time, it's you're getting a free education on how to be a referee. I mean, are they saying like, "Well, Ted, we're also going to need you to help break down the ring at the end of the night," or any other ways that they're having
just like everybody else?
Wow. Okay. Would something like that get you heat? Would something like that get you heat? Because like most people have to pay their dues.
Well, I mean, nobody knew.
Okay.
I mean, the only one, it's like, this was like a one-off thing. I did it that night because, whoever the referee was, wasn't available. Something had happened, and they needed a referee. And so Terry, just Teddy, he says, "Come on, just here's the shirt, put it on. He says, and you just listen to the guys in there. I mean, but you really, all you have to remember is if their shoulders are down, you count them down. Plus the fact the finish, how each match is going to end. So you know that if you count somebody out before that, then that's not what they're if that's not what they were going to do. Well, I said, but make it be on them, not you. Make it be because they didn't get their ass back in the ring before the count. They got counted out. So anyway,
man,
he says referee it like it's a real match. It's like, we're in the corner, make them break. And when the guy steps back, you step through. And I mean, I just knew, I had watched so much wrestling. I knew all of that. So it came pretty easy. Yeah.
Along the way, Ted, as you're being a referee and you're kind of like learning the ropes, so to speak, what notable names did you ref matches for? Obviously, I'm guessing the Funks, but any others that are maybe of note?
Oh gosh, I mean, right there in the Amarillo territory, again, always had great talent, and so basically the entire summer between my sophomore year of college and my junior year of college, that's what I did for a summer job. I refereed because it was every night.
Yeah,
and there was a wrestler. He was a great heel. His name was Cyclone Negro. And I don't know if anybody here would know him, but back then, Pat Patterson, a very young Harley Race. Pat O'Connor he was another big name.
So I do want to ask, any early mistakes stick out for you when you were being a referee? Like any big flubs or mistakes that you made along the way?
No, I can't. I don't remember being chastised or anything for anything. I mean, I didn't. Obviously, I didn't ever make any major mistake. Like count the wrong guy down or anything like that. But I think, Marcus, because I was. Wrestling had, I watched it since I was a kid. I wanted to be my dad. It's almost like, and usually when you start off as a baby face because this is just the way things were. The heel in the match is calling the shots.
Mm-hmm.
He calls everything. And, of course I wanted to be my dad, but I knew that I knew I couldn't start off as a heel, because I was a rookie, so I needed that voice in there telling me what to do.
But so with reffing, you had enough experience watching it at that point that you just weren't really making any critical errors.
Yeah. Yeah. Me starting off as the referee, as the third man in the ring and watching them very closely. I'm being right in there with them, listening to them and what have you. It was perfect.
I do want to point out as we're talking about all this that the way that you came up in wrestling is pretty unique, even for a second generation guy. And so I can give you and the listeners context a little bit. Whenever I was talking to Jake about how he came up in wrestling, it was essentially one of those things where it's like he's doing it to spite his father. His father didn't really think that he was capable of it. And Jake's like, well, I'll show you. His father facilitated it. But then Jake was on his own to make his way through wrestling. And so he began as a referee. And when he would make a mistake, he was getting chewed out backstage. Guys were roughing him up, taking liberties with him. He came up in a really, really difficult circumstances, and he fought through it and forced it to work. He didn't get to reap the benefits of being a second generation wrestler. He had to start out like just some greenhorn. And he got treated that way. So he had difficult circumstances. So it's cool to hear the story where it's like,
and that was and again, I have to admit that the inroad for me was that because I had a relationship with the Funks, and that I was at West Texas State playing football. I mean, and again, Bill Watts, and Leroy McGirt. I mean, he said, Bill actually wrestled with my dad one time, when he was young, and, spoke about how great a great worker he was. So I'm going to work for a guy who's already even been in the ring with my dad.
Mm-hmm.
And and I'll be honest with you. I think that because of my dad's reputation and the way I carried and handled myself, I was always courteous. Hey, whatever you can, whatever you teach me. I think one of Jake's strikes was the fact that he was Grizzly Smith's son.
You think it may have actually hurt him?
Yeah, because everybody knew Grizz was a pedophile. They like young girls. I mean, it's like he's a sick puppy.
Mm-hmm.
He was smart. I mean, he was. And Jake's a real bright guy, and I think he gets a lot of his brain power from his dad because, Grizz was no slouch, and Grizz is the guy who, he's working for Bill Watts, and he's carrying the finishes and all that stuff. So,
difficult way for him to start. It's everybody says like, oh, second. That was always the saying about wrestling way back when, like, you can't get into the business unless you're somebody's kid. Well, Jake got a foot in a door that was open just a crack because of his father, and then all the rest of it was on him. And man, a tough way to go. So it's cool to hear the other side of it, where you have
like in that, the thing about. You can't get into wrestling unless you're raised in it. I don't know. I wouldn't say there's a whole lot of truth to that unless you prove it. and there's a lot of kids that were wrestlers. A lot of guys who got into the business that were wrestler sons that didn't do that well.
Mm-hmm. Well, while we're talking about Jake, here's one that I asked Jake, and I'd love to hear your take on it as well. We all know now that drug use was pretty big for wrestlers, certainly for your generation of guys. A lot of guys were self-medicating to deal with the road and deal with the bumps and bruises you get along the way. But also to come down from the high that you get when you're in front of a live crowd. So like drug use and wrestling were pretty well linked together. So it makes me wonder, Ted, here you are, a young man coming into a locker room with a bunch of grown men. What was the earliest memory for you of seeing drug use in wrestling?
Oh gosh, yeah, it's hard for me to remember. Back then, the only thing that if I saw anything, usually it was pot. My attitude was, as long as they could do that and still get out in that ring and do what they've got to do, okay. And if it helps them in some way, okay, that's their business. And I'm not going to get in it. But when they would offer to me, I'd say thanks, but no thanks.
Whenever I talked to Jake, he said the same thing. He said that it was pot that he saw getting used back in those days. And he said because Coke didn't really become a thing until like the 80s. And it makes me wonder, Ted, like, do you think that your generation of guys was the guys that really started to develop drug dependency with cocaine and pharmaceuticals being introduced?
Oh gosh, I couldn't really say for certain, but I do know that I would take they call them bennies, but I guess it's the same. Whatever, it's like the truck drivers would take a benny, they'd call it a bennies to stay awake on the road, the long trips, and I just could not do pot. All pot did was make me null and void and hungry. It was like, sit him in the corner. That would be me, but Cocaine, on the other hand, it was very much a stimulant, and I liked it, but again, just because I think consciously, because I recognized my mother as an alcoholic,
Mm-hmm.
and I just promised myself I was never going to go there. And so, irregardless of what it was, again, pot was just, if I were going to take a couple hits off a joint, it would probably be right before I went to bed, and go sleep. Coke, on the other hand, was a stimulant, and I liked it. But again, it was kind of like I used it when I needed it. I didn't just sit up all night and do cocaine because it was there. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
But I was always, I guess, addiction fear. I didn't want to become my mother. I hate to say that, but my mother, God bless her, who was an alcoholic. And my mother was only 56 years old when she died.
Way too young.
Way. Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Man, wrestling is such an interesting lifestyle, and I can't wait to kind of take a deeper dive into it as we continue your early days next week when we're talking about this. It's there's just so much to cover that we gotta. As we're going over it, and I'm looking through these notes, I'm like, brother, we better split this into 2 episodes. We only get one crack at a 50-year anniversary, so we're gonna do it right. So tune in next week for the remainder of the story about Ted breaking into wrestling. Look, I do want to remind you guys to get over to onetruesporttv.com where you can enjoy some awesome content for free on the regular YouTube channel. Now, where things really start to get interesting, though, is when you become a member. We have 3 tiers, which we have titled first Contender, and Contender is at the $7.99 per month level.
Who is that?
Oh, that is Greg Gagne, who's part of our network.
Very, very young Greg Gagne.
A very young Greg Gagne, and what that level will get you is early access, an RSS feed, which is private, so you'll get ad-free versions of the shows that you can download as audio only. You get a banner, access to the One True Sport Discord, and the weekly hotline, which my brother Dominic will be hosting. At the next level, we're calling it Workhorse, and that's $24.99 a month. There's a young Arn Anderson here representing this look, and we've got some great stuff there as far as what we're able to offer members, including a membership sticker after 2 months, early access to the RSS feed, bonus episodes, monthly host Q&A or watch along, custom graphic, annual merch, shout out for new members, and access again to that One True Sport Discord. And then finally, we've got the traveling champion level. This is the top tier level for our members.
Yeah, well, that picture needs to change.
That one has got to be Mr. DiBiase with his $1 million championship, not Kurt Angle. What are we doing here? But what that's going to include is a custom 11x17 One True Sport poster. We talked about it on our chat, which is available on the YouTube page, and we actually showed an image of it. I'll put it up on our social media here at some point this week. You also get an exclusive T-shirt after being subscribed for a while. Quarterly merch after 6 months. Monthly virtual Q&A with a legend. Early access, that RSS feed, bonus episode with a legend, host Q&A, all of the other stuff that we had included there at those earlier levels. Plus, you also get a birthday club shout out from a legend. Meaning when it's your birthday on one of the shows, one of these legends is going to give you a shout out, and we will highlight that on social media. And you also get followed by one of these legends on Instagram or X. So, man, there's just a lot of benefits to becoming a member of One True Sport. That's the tip of the iceberg, and we're planning on bringing plenty more. So, folks, again, get over to onetruesport.com and take a look at the merch. Go to onetruesporttv.com, the YouTube page, and make sure that you become a member so you can start enjoying some of the fun. All right, so catch Ted on social media at MDM Ted DiBiase on all platforms. Follow One True Sport at 1T Sport on X and Facebook, and at One True Sport TV on Instagram. And you can follow me and contact me at Marcus P. D'Angelo on X. Ted, again, the tip of the iceberg here when it comes to your early days in wrestling. I cannot wait to dig back into it again. 50 years ago, we're telling the story here on Everybody's Got a Pod.
Wow. Absolutely. And again, Marcus, you've been great. And, it's kind of like we're doing all this stuff. And a lot of these questions on all the shows we've been doing, it's taking me back, and it's actually helping me to remember things that, we're all, way back there, man. Yeah. So anyway, but as always, as I go, I can't go. I can't leave you without letting you know. Everybody's got a price for the $1 Million Man.
We'll catch you guys next time right here on Everybody's Got a Pod.
$1 Million dream, tell them all good night. Everybody's got a pod, everybody's got a price.